Good evening, guys. Good evening to all of your beautiful countries and all of your beautiful oblasts. I know it may be morning, night, or day in your part of the world. And I'm so grateful that people from different parts of the world are watching us today because this is a community. Traditionally, please let me know if everything is fine with the video and the sound. Hopefully, electricity outages will not intervene. These few days were not bad, and I was able to continue working almost as normal. Also, I have tried to back up internet connection, so even if the lights go out, we continue having internet, hopefully. Greetings to Sweden, greetings to Italy and New Zealand, and Massachusetts, and the United Kingdom, and Indiana, and Canada, and Carolina, and Nice traditionally. What a beautiful location, and Czech Republic, and South Africa, because I was reading all of your comments, and Vancouver and Liverpool. And I want to thank Paul for buying sponsorship for the channel even before we started. Thank you. That's a huge gesture of friendship and support. Greetings to Finland and beautiful Australia. And I know I have a lot of viewers from New Zealand. And actually, it's so heartwarming that you are far away, but you are really close. And greetings to Germany and Wales, of course. So thank you so much. The United States and Malaysia. Oh my God, people, I'm so happy to be with you. And greetings to Copenhagen. And of course, Sweden. We share the colors and I love it so much. And Romania and Ireland and Virginia and USA and Belgium. I hope you don't mind me introducing all of our community a little bit. I will not read everything, but still, California and Yorkshire and Florida and Virginia and Wisconsin. So many beautiful names. By the way, Rocky Mountains. Whenever I receive your emails or comments where you mention your location, I'm a little bit, greetings to France and Singapore, oh my God, and Michigan, and France and Amsterdam. I'm a little bit of a nerd, as you might have noticed. The Netherlands, yes, Francois, you are right. We are traveling right now together with our beautiful community. Greetings to Denmark. And hello, William, and thank you for your support and your friendship and coffees, of course. So anyway, I'm a bit of a nerd, and whenever I read the name of your state, the name of your city, and I know little, thank you, pretty nerd. Sometimes nerds are pretty, actually. So I always Google and I learn a lot. Now I know much more about the states of the United States of America. I know a lot about Canada, and I do know the difference between the United Kingdom, Great Britain, and other things that I honestly did not know before I started the channel. And we have our beautiful community. And Finland, we share so many things, starting from our bad neighbor and finishing with our strengths and resilience. And I know you are a kind of people who don't need explanation why we need to defeat Russia. So thank you so much, all the good people. And I think there are lots of things that we can discuss today. Greetings to Ohio and Texas and Oregon. So first of all, I think we can literally divide the stream into two sections. First of all, I would like to debunk some of the myths that are now wildly spread, especially in the EU media. I don't know what about the United States. You may tell me in the process. So anyway, this is about Ukrainians wanting the negotiations with Russia. I think I need to explain some things, and also I need to debunk some of awful things about Ukrainian mobilization. It's not a simple process, but oh my God, it's not that bad process as many of the articles describe, and I feel we need to explain that. And then maybe you will ask me some questions about what is life during the blackouts, because honestly, these months were harsh, and especially these weeks. And well, sometimes it was quite difficult. Greetings to my sister who joined us in Dorset and Ireland. And also I want to thank to the beautiful team, the moderators of the channel. This is Martin, this is Rudy, this is Spencer. I want to thank Michael, Neil, Francois for cheering the people. I've seen Iman here, and like all of our beautiful community. So when reading the comments before joining the stream, I have come across a comment that touched me, but I do feel this is not a negative, like this is not a comment intended to offend. That's why I want to start with it. And it was a comment of a viewer saying that I'm trying to keep neutral. I want all the bad to finish. And I know the person does not intend bad. And I do understand that many people live very far away from Ukraine, know nothing about our history, and I don't blame you for that, because like this war made me to some extent more awake, and now I promise myself that I will be attentive to all the nations, all the people. So anyway, it was like, let's imagine hypothetically that there is a war somewhere on another planet, I don't know, between A and B. And if you're totally neutral to both countries, you know nothing about their background, one of the easiest way to shape your opinion is actually to look at which country violated international agreements and laws, if they exist on that planet. Thank you so much, World, for the sponsorship. Then perhaps it's okay to check if who crossed the borders, who invaded whom. Is it a two-sided process or just one-sided? And to look how they fight this war. Are there many victims among the civilians? Do they target any objects that don't look okay from a perspective of a soldier and warrior? Do they commit genocide or war crimes? And if you apply these questions to Russian war in Ukraine, the question is easy. Russia invaded Ukraine. Russia came to Ukraine. Ukrainians are fighting for their territories, for our motherland. We're trying to return back our cities and our regions. We did not come to invade Russia. Russians destroy our hospitals, schools. 1/3 of our country is literally torn apart. We have witnessed crimes in Bucha. We have seen them bombing cancer hospital. Nothing similar is happening in Russia. And even if we will be allowed, and I hope when we will be allowed to target Russia, we will not target their schools or hospitals. You know that. So for me, honestly, I do not know how can one be neutral observing this. Oh my God, thank you so much for the coffees that you're buying and supporting the channel. Thank you so much, Oms. I hope I'm reading it right. Tehsin, and thank you so much, Ad. So thank you so much for the support in different languages. I am sorry that we do have problems with disappearing comments once again. Thank you so much, Tony, for buying me coffee and supporting the channel. And I hope that this wave of disappearing comments, oh my God, my comments also disappear, will stop soon. Because it's not okay, but it happens in waves, sometimes. And I will have a meeting with YouTube partner. When you reach 100,000 subscribers, you do have a YouTube partner manager with whom you can talk. So I plan to talk about that on Tuesday, but please do not stop commenting, because I learn a lot from you. I get my inspiration, and in some really dark moments, like when they bomb Mykolaiv or when we don't have electricity at all, believe me, this definitely adds strength and energy. And thank you so much, World Peace, for the support and sponsorship for the channel, and for a beautiful name that you have on the channel. Unfortunately, I don't know who's deleting these comments. It's not me, of course, because the worst thing that may happen is when you think it's me. Of course, it's not, because even my comments disappear. I think it's not that YouTube is playing for Russia, no, but they have this very sensitive AI algorithms, and honestly, they want us to think that we live in a peaceful and beautiful world, and I wish it was like that. But unfortunately, when the country and the world is fighting a very serious war, I think it's not okay to pretend that everything is fine. And social media often want us to pretend that everything is fine. So one of the things that I want to discuss with you today, thank you so much, Beard Dog. Um, yeah, not sensitive but stupid. To some extent, you are right. I mean, like the algorithms, but how we go. So, first of all, the best site to donate money for people. I think it is time for me to upload a list of an updated list of charities that you can donate your money on, and I think during the next week I will post more on the community tab. But of course, starting from United 24 platforms or Return Live, these are very big. They have English pages. Of course, we have our NAFA community 69 Sniffing Brigade. They always have campaigns. They buy lots of good stuff, and they have started supplying drones for me. This is really cool because drones are weapons. And I know I'm a girl and I'm supposed to be very kind, but we have to clean our country from these invaders. We have to prevent strikes in our schools and hospitals. That's why personally, whenever I donate for drones or weapons, not medication, not psychological help or something like that. I invest in the liberation of my country. Thank you so much, someone. Thank you so much, someone. I have to say someone. So, one of the things that I wanted to start with today, and you may ask your questions, was actually a very recent survey that was conducted in Ukraine about how Ukrainians, President Zelensky did not agree to speak with Putin, not at all. They did not discuss this with Trump. They have invited Trump to visit Ukraine to see by himself what is happening here, but no one agreed to talk to Putin. This is disinformation. Thank you so much for buying the coffee. And Sean, I guess that's the correct pronunciation. So anyway, one of the things that I would like to start with is this survey that was conducted in Ukraine, and it was really conducted here, asking people, do they want negotiations with Russia? And the result was 44%, and I was bitterly surprised. Thank you so much, John, for joining as a sponsor. I was bitterly surprised that media of our partners in the European Union, especially in the northern countries, reported it in a totally wrong way, like this clickbait, not providing the full picture. So first of all, the question was, do you want negotiations during this war, something like that, on Ukraine's conditions, like Zelensky plan? And 44% said that they want negotiations on the terms of Zelensky. 56% do not want these negotiations even on Ukraine's terms. They want complete collapse and defeat of Russia. So it's not that 44% of Ukraine are ready to negotiate with Putin whatever happens. And actually what we were discussing inside Ukraine is that the next question was, are you ready to look for a compromise? And the answer was like 86% no. And here inside Ukraine, we were discussing actually that oh my God, people do not clearly understand this political military processes because 44% of them want negotiations on Ukraine's term. But even those who want negotiations, like you don't find them because compromise is always present. So Ukrainian newspapers actually reported that 56% of Ukrainians do not want any negotiations, even on Ukraine's terms, and 44 want Zelensky peace formula. We all know that peace formula of Zelensky will never be accepted by Putin or Lavrov. So it's not that Ukrainians want negotiations, but unfortunately, many smaller European nations that are experiencing fatigue. I don't clearly understand from what, because, like I don't have 12 hours of electricity and I'm not fatigued. But those who they are looking for some solutions, and they try to find this like excuse that, oh, maybe Ukrainians want negotiations, then we all can give up and say that Ukrainians want to negotiate. Okay, thank you so much, and everything will be Ukraine. Thank you for the coffee. So anyway, one of the most important messages that I have to bring today and attract your attention to is that no, Ukrainians do not want negotiations, and this 44% want negotiations on Ukraine's terms so that Russia leaves all the territory to 1991, the sanctions remain, and so on and so forth. So I'm sure that now you kind of understand it a little bit better, but like I am honestly very concerned that so many good newspapers around the world were manipulating this fact. I know that many are afraid of serious political changes in the United States. I'm also aware that many countries are too concerned about gas prices, I don't know, something else. And unfortunately, many are susceptible to propaganda and fake narratives when actually things are different than represented in the newspapers, and people follow that. So please be careful and understand that nobody wants negotiations in Ukraine before the defeat of Russia. Of course, thank you so much, Ben. Of course, we do understand that after Ukraine's victory, after victory of Ukraine and its allies, because we clearly understand we are fighting together, that there will be some kind of negotiations, but not with Putin, not with Lavrov. And another important thing that I want to clarify to those kind-hearted people who think that actually one of my friend subscribers beautifully described why so many people like the idea of negotiations. And whenever they hear negotiations, thank you so much, Tammy, and thank you, Duncan, for your support. But one of the most important things, thank you so much, Scott, that many don't understand. When you hear the word negotiations, you have direct association with peace, normality, and you think this is something good we should want. But no, because it's a little bit like brutal to some extent, but can you imagine like Hitler negotiating with Jews from concentration camps? Until Hitler is punished, in our case it's Putin, we cannot negotiate anything. If you allow this evil responsible for so many war crimes to survive and to remain a president of a country, you lift all the sanctions and other stuff. Thank you so much, John. Well, guys, it's not the way this world operates. And let me be quite clear. Not only like negotiations with Russia are not worth any agreement with Russia, this is a popular phrase. Of course, we don't trust Russia. Of course, any agreement with Russia is not worth the paper on which it was signed. And it's not only about the 20th century, it is also about the previous centuries. We have a very a long period of wars with Russia. They did not start in the 21st century. They have started in the 18th century, if not earlier. So we know how bad they are. But even if we imagine like that we trust, let's have a look like at the way they can be conducted right now. Ukraine will not want to lose its territories and lose its people. We will never accept the terms that modern Russia tries to push because it looks like, okay, we were fighting, we were protecting ourselves during these years, and now we will give up. And what do you think about the soldiers? What do you think about people who've lost their loved ones? What do you think about the destroyed cities? That people will simply forget about that, like take a nap and go on living without this evil punished. Once again, can you imagine that justice would be possible in let's say in January 1945 Hitler would agree to negotiate? No one, like, I think every war has a very decisive moment when for example, in the terms of the greetings to the Netherlands, for example, in the times of the Second World War, there was a moment when Churchill persuaded the people that, like, Germany first. One of the most important things that we have to do is to defeat Germany. And that was a decisive breaking like moment and point in the history of the Second World War, when people realized, thank you, Yoda, for your help, in Yalta and in other places, in Casablanca, if I'm not mistaken, and greetings to Quebec. It was a moment when people realized that Hitler and his party and his army has to be defeated. The same is about Russia. It's once and forever that we have to understand that after so many threats, after so many war crimes, after so much disrespect to your countries and your nations, Russia has to be defeated. When Putin is sentenced to prison or, I don't know, neutralized somewhere on the streets of Moscovia, only then new potential leaders start emerging, and that's actually the moment when we can consider some kind of negotiations. And please remember to like the video if you like, so that more people can watch. And yes, of course, Yalta is a very beautiful city in Crimea, and both Crimea and Yalta are Ukraine. Thank you so much for all the beautiful words. Distinct from Russia is not distinct from Putin, because those people who bomb Ukrainian hospitals, who loot Ukrainian houses, they are not all Putin. They are Russians, and they cross the border, they loot, rape, and kill, they push buttons, and they just read comments on Russian social media when they learn about, for example, the destruction of Children's Hospital. The majority start cheering and saying, ha ha, fewer people, that's better. Unfortunately, there are millions of Putins in Russia. And I think the reason for that is that inside the country, they live like slaves. They don't have a right, they don't have a voice, everything is decided for them. So they feel like slaves, and they love going out of that country and trying to make other people their slaves, because this gives them this illusion of ruling, an illusion of being someone. So kind of sad, but I think it's extremely difficult question what the world has to do with the Russian population, because it's 140 million of people. And for example, when they have destroyed the Ukrainian Children's Hospital, I'm taking this recent events, or for example, when they blown up a Kakhovka Dam. Did you see any demonstrations of good Russians? I'm not even saying in Russia. I did not see them in your countries. You know, once again, I have a lot of beautiful people who tell me that whenever something bad happens in Russia, even, you bring flowers to their embassies, and I understand that you are good people and you feel compassionate, and that's important. Thank you so much, Building Analyst, for joining as a sponsor. But have you seen any like movement of Russians even outside Russia? Okay, many of them escaped to Georgia, many of them are in Germany, many of them are in Nordic countries, many of them are in Poland, millions of them actually. Do they protest? Do they bring flowers to Ukrainian embassies? No. And nobody's speaking about that. And then they say, "Whoa, you're so Russophobic." I'm not Russophobic, I'm Russo disgusted. Sorry. So, never. Yesterday in our community, uh, millions cannot be scared of one person. Like I'm working on a book now, and I'm trying to uh, explain the history. Like if I had to describe this book, I'd say it's a friendly conversation with you, but it's also a way to explain my country and its history. And I want it to be interesting and simple. And one of the greatest differences in the modern history is that when we had the Revolution of Dignity, when we had Maidan, we also had security forces, we had Berkut. Many of them were instructed and coordinated directly from Moscow because they wanted to stop the revolution, they wanted to stop the protests. And they were arresting people, they were beating people, and they were shooting people. You know that 100 died. And when people were caught, other people, other protesters were fighting for them to relieve them, were shaking these autozaks to relieve the comrades, the friends, the brothers. And in Russia, they film videos and disappear. Because once again, if you take all the security forces in Russia, they will never outnumber millions of Russians who could have protested, but they silently accept their life. And unfortunately, the majority of them like what they do to Ukraine, like how they destroy another successful country that managed to do what they did not manage. Like, they are extremely jealous of this normal living. Once again, I will tell you a story from my mom's life, and you may call me Russophobic. I have all the rights. Russians are killing us for 2.5 years actively and for centuries. So, my mom worked with her colleague who was a doctor. She was from Russia. She came to Lutsk during Soviet times with her husband, who was a military man, and we had an airfield, and he was working here, and she was sent by Soviet Union. Soviet Union liked to change that cultural identity of regions. And she was mom's friend, indeed, like the one visiting birthday parties, New Year parties, and she was not a bad woman in general. And I have always considered her my mom's friend. First, she lived and worked with my mom in one office. They both were dentists. And she did not learn to speak Ukrainian at all. Like, she did not want to do it. She would say, "But you understand me?" And people were surprised. Why don't you want, because I imagine myself, I don't know, living in France, and I will want to learn your language because this tells a lot about you. I will do my best. Maybe I won't be the best speaker, but from deep inside, I will wish that. And another reason, she loved mocking Ukrainian language. We have these sounds that are very different from Russian, and they forget about this when they want to say that languages are similar, but actually they are laughing at our pronunciation a lot. And she would literally laugh as if it's super funny when it's not. And it's this disrespect. For example, she will try something of traditional Ukrainian food and she will pretend like she's vomiting. That's overreaction. I have tried a lot of very untasty things. By the way, I know I have people from Sweden. I don't like this chewing sweets with, in Ukrainian, it's lakritsa. It's a kind of berry. But I always finish what I'm eating, even if these are, I don't know, maybugs, if you have given it to me. And it was just like, and believe me, it's not something super bad, but she was like, but most importantly, what my mom, well, it was difficult for my mom. She would always not just borrow, but take things from her, which they need for work, like dentistry stuff. And she would say like, "Oh, you Ukrainian, you always store so many things. You are full of good stuff. I hate it about you. You're always packing your," just like my mom was buying the stuff she needs for work because that's our attitude, and she would take away these things like for free because she's a friend and she desperately needs that. But at the same time, while taking this, she would say, "Oh, I hate you Ukrainians. You're always storing something. You're always," well, first of all, because of you guys, we had Holodomor, and we are really like, if you visit a Ukrainian house, it will be full of food. Yeah, we have canned food. I have flour. I have different kinds of like pasta, macaroni. I have jam. I don't like jam, but I have it. Yeah, my fridge, even like when I'm alone, my fridge is not empty. That's the Ukrainian thing. And you know, and she was not like bad person. I even think she's like disappointed with what's happening now, but this is a Russian attitude. And because sister, you're also Ukrainian, that's why you store things. But that is exactly beautifully said. This is their default setting. Totally agree with you. And this is a kind like whenever Ukrainian is traveling or when we meet foreigners in our house, we always try to learn something. We get inspiration from you. No, Ukrainians will not go to peace deal until Russia is defeated, Aziz. When Russia is defeated, Putin is imprisoned or killed, we will negotiate with the next person because right now this is a criminal. So, in general, I think they are, in the majority of cases, once again, those of you who traveled Russia, not to Moscow or St. Petersburg, but like real big Russia, rural areas, you've seen how poor it is. And when they go out and they come to Ukraine, and Ukraine is a middle class country. And you know that many of you who have visited my country, you know that like we are not that bad, even during the times of war. I've heard that from many people who visit Ukraine when you actually say that, oh my God, it's kind of, it's much better than you have this. Unfortunately, there are stereotypes about the Eastern Europe or Central Europe, and um, there are some stereotypes. Some of them are, of course, true. Yeah, thank you so much. Come on, people, click the like button. BBT. This is right. So, this is just like we are a country, I think. Okay, I will be arrogant. I think there are many countries, for example, in NATO, who are more corrupt, more problematic than Ukraine. There are many countries in the European Union that have similar troubles than Ukraine does. So, if I had to describe my country, I'd say that we are a very normal country that is based on the middle class. The oligarchs that tried to interfere in Ukrainian politics, they were all Russia owned. They were all coming from Moscow. They were all connected to Moscow gas, oil prices, and so on. That's actually why they have put Yanukovych, who was a classical criminal mafioso type leader, and he had his family. And I'm also writing about that in the history part of the book. So anyway, we were always against that. And a typical Ukraine is like a rich middle class. That's why they organized Holodomor, to destroy rich Ukrainian peasants who had like households, who had small businesses. It was always loved in Ukraine because we do like caring, building, drawing, feeding, growing. That's all. Like the dream of a Ukrainian is just let us live, let us plant, let us sell, let us feed. And in Russia, oh my God, it's just a country that's a totally ordeal. I think it's a great problem that many look at Russia and they are trying to find something like shared values when they are not. When like I think that even Mongolia, that was like a motherland of the Mongol horde, has overcome this Ordian approach more than Russia does. Unfortunately, they are very, very much of the horde. And come on, beautiful people, please like and the video if you like it. And also, I will ask you, because I know here is the core of our community today with me. If you feel like, please share the videos on the social media that you have. This helps YouTube algorithm. And I'm worried because like there are lots of misinformation and disinformation, and many of you actually say that that like you cannot read a lot about Ukraine or you believe something. That is why I'm asking that. It's not just like for personal popularity or something. It's about like more things that I can explain about Ukraine, because this is much needed. Thank you so much for your beautiful messages. And one of the things that I also feel bad about before we start with your questions, and maybe I will share some blackout experience if you're interested in that. So one of these things that bothers me greatly, thank you so much, Scott, for buying me coffee, is that, and thank you so much, Peter, and time to say cheers and drink some water. And Nail is right. We have 50 likes to get 800 likes. And one of the most important things is that many politicians, even those who support us, if you look at them, they are fully concentrated on Ukraine. And you may say, well, don't you like that? Don't you like that people just like, I don't know, speak about you constantly, and they say that we want to support you, we will help Ukraine as long as it takes, like in Ukraine people don't like it as long as it takes. But but at the same time I feel that the more people and leaders are talking about Ukraine, that we need to support Ukraine, we need to help Ukraine, and so on, the more irritated those passive people who do not follow the news, who do not understand the crimes that Russia commits, so they feel a little bit disappointed like with that, and they are tired of Ukraine, and this does not work that good for Ukraine. And honestly, if I were, I don't know, an alien coming on this planet, looking at what is happening, I would never say, like, Ukraine is a problem. We have to know what to do is like Ukraine. That's what you hear on the news. When in reality, we have to speak about Russia. All of our thoughts, all of our ideas, all of our plans and strategies, military and political decisions should actually put Russia in the center. And I wish like presidents of the strong countries that have huge economies and that also have huge responsibilities, and all these international organizations would not say like, oh, we have this problem with Ukraine, we got to do something with Ukraine was living peacefully its life with its problems, with its achievements, but it was living normal life just like Lithuania, Slovenia, France. We were living our life. We did not interfere or cause you any trouble at all. You didn't know about us, let's be honest. So if we were problematic, you would have known about us like for ages. You did not know about us to a great extent. So we were living our life normal. So Ukraine is not a problem. It's not because of Ukraine. It's not happening in Ukraine. It's not what shall we do with Ukraine. It's Russia. What shall we do with Russia? We have to change this focus. And when people will start, thank you so much, Bema. And when people will start speaking about plans to defeat Russia, when this will be the agenda, believe me, this war will end soon. But everybody's speaking about Ukraine, everyone is tired of Ukraine, but oh my God, it's all about Russia. It's about Russian terrorism. It's about Russian war crimes. It's about Russian threats to nuke your capitals. It's about Russia invading Georgia in 2008, Ukraine in 2014, and other countries. If we do not defeat it, Russia is a problem. And thank you so much for letting me know that you're not tired. I'm blessed to have you in my life, and you're special, but we have to be realistic. The world is so big, and yeah, what shall we do with the drunken Russia? I know we were learning this, Swan, at school. I was so guys, this is I know that your countries stand strong, and the United Kingdom and like Finland and the Baltic countries, of course, we feel that, and Sweden and Norway, we feel, and many more that I don't name just because I don't have enough time. But the problem is Russia, and we have all together discuss what shall we do with Russia. Thank you so much, Bruce, for this sponsorship. This means a lot, and this helps a lot. Thank you so much. So that's an issue. And whenever I hear people saying, as long as Ukraine wants, as long as Ukraine, no, as long as Russia bombs, as long as Russia threatens, as long as Russia destroys, as long as it's all about Russia. The problem is not Ukraine and what can we do with Ukraine. We have to defeat Russia. If we don't defeat Russia, it will continue. If we exhaust Ukraine, its people, it will move on. Maybe not this week, not this month, not this year, but in 10 years, believe me. Thank you so much, dear Pat. Thank you. So it's actually quite sad that many still share a totally different discourse, and people get distracted because, once again, many are very, very, very far away, and many know very little. So Russians, okay, many questions about Irina Farion, who was a former member of parliament of Ukraine, and she was assassinated yesterday in Lviv. Lviv is a regional center. Quite many consider it in a cultural center of Ukraine. It's the western part of Ukraine, and it's considered to be safe. Irina Farion is a very bright personality in Ukrainian politics. She's a linguist. She was quite radical in her expressions, but she is a good linguist that demonstrated the dangers and problems of Russification. And she was very anti-Russian. Thank you so much, Cat Katz. She was a linguistics professor in Lviv. She is an author of many books, and she also has a YouTube channel, had a YouTube channel where she spoke about prominent Ukrainian personalities that were killed by Russia. And it's very symbolic. Also, when in parliament during Yanukovych times, she was perhaps one of very few who openly mocked them. She was quite like too emotional in her expressions, but she was doing that. And one of her extremely popular quotes is that if we all start speaking Ukrainian in Ukraine, Putin dies. And I agree with that. Because I know, like, we do not discuss much the issue with languages, and I do know lots of good people who speak Russian in Ukraine. Thank you so much, Jan. But it is 100% true, if not 300% true, that all Russian speaking people in Ukraine are Russian speaking not by choice, but because of their families that were Russified in times of the Soviet Union. It was not something that you experience, let's say, in Switzerland, when your country comes from different like regions where different languages were spread, and it was an organic and natural bilingualism, multilingualism, and so on. Ukraine was Ukrainian language speaking. People were learning different languages here, but during Soviet times, during Russian Empire, people were severely Russified. Also, in my book, when I describe a very bad 18th century, I describe it briefly. I share very popular documents inside Ukraine that during the end of 18th century, there were 76 Russian Tsar orders forbidding Ukrainian language. It's actually magical that the language survived. And partially because a great part of Ukraine was in Austro-Hungarian Empire. And Austro-Hungarian Empire was bad as all empires, but it was not crazy as Russia. And maybe it did not like push, but it understood that language is important. Thank you so much, Jonas, for joining as a patron. So 76 bans of language, and one of the most, like, they burned books. You see it right now, it happens again. And what is also important, they banned, for example, baptizing children using Ukrainian names. So that's a huge example that proves to many that, yeah, there are people who speak Russian in Ukrainian. In Ukraine, they feel okay, some on the front lines, but those good people who speak Russian in Ukraine, they always say that my dream is that my children will speak Ukrainian, will return their cultural heritage. And it can be compared like to colonies, I don't know, in Africa or in Asia, when you did not have access to education, medicine, building your career if you did not learn the language of your empire. So people who speak now Russian in Ukraine, first, that's not their choice. It's not a natural process. It's the results of decades of Russification. Okay, now no one will change them, but we have to understand it at least. And another thing is a greater problem, because language is one thing, and for example, here on the channel, we all speak English. And we speak English in the United States, we speak English in Great Britain, we speak English in Australia. Thank you so much, Frederick. And no one in England says that there is no America because you speak English, so you're English. There is no Australia because you speak English, so you're English. And Russia has this trouble. Not only it traumatized nations, just what they did to Belarus, destroyed the language. Another thing, it was not a competition between Ukrainian and Russian that Russian won. It was not a competition between Belarus language and Russian. No, they were forbidding your language and giving you Russian. So it's not a competition even. I know, like, many people choose language. It's easy. It's not like a freedom of choice that they were given. So that was a serious problem. And yeah, you don't, but Russians will deny that you speak American. They will say like, so anyway, this is what is important to understand. And they were always working hard to erase cultural identity. And then when you start protecting your cultural identity and saying that, like, no, I'm not Russian, I'm Ukrainian. No, I don't want to speak Russian in the university. I want to speak Ukrainian. What do they say? You're a Nazi. You are Russophobic. No, but I want like Ukrainian universities to teach in Ukrainian. I don't want them to teach in German. I don't want them to teach in Russian. I don't want them to teach in Polish. I want them to teach in Ukrainian. And they say, no, that's Nazism. So, yeah, a good example, yeah, that in Austria people speak, "Hi, Jake, happy to see you." And we have actually reached this part of a stream where I want you to ask me more questions about this ordinary Ukrainian life. Thank you so much, Bruce, for buying me coffees. And thank you so much, Jake, for joining our evening, because it's evening here right now, and luckily we have electricity. So I felt like there are lots of details that you guys cannot imagine, and hopefully will never imagine, because you do not experience that. After numerous attacks on Ukrainian infrastructure, this summer is quite difficult with electricity. And it is different in different parts of the country, because the more damage you have, the more problems you have with the supply. But at the same time, I do like that in those regions where they are really close to front lines, like Kharkiv, people have fewer electricity outages than, for example, me in a semi-safe zone. Because let's be honest, their life is more difficult. I think it's extremely important that more people remain in regions of Ukraine and in Ukraine in general. And actually, this is a very wise decision that, for example, electricity outages in Kharkiv are less severe than they are in my native city. And yeah, I agree that Jake Bro is a legend. So Ukrainians are very creative. And I do remember this very first blackouts in winter 2022, when just after a couple of days of severe blackouts, you could go out on the streets, and it was winter, it was very dark, it was quite depressive. But at the same time, first generators were introduced, and people started making hot wine. It's very popular in Ukraine, blue wine or something like, I know it's German tradition, but it was super popular. And it was a very unusual feeling when you realize everything is bad, everything is dark, and people did not sit at homes, because like, what can you do in a dark, cold home? And they were going out, because sometimes in the snow it was even brighter, and people were drinking this hot wine, some coffee. And these are the moments when you feel the invincibility of your nation. So right now, like many people are having generators, they are a part of our folklore already. There are lots of jokes like, who's the best, like, I don't know, girlfriend to have, the one that has a generator. But of course you cannot use, like, most of the generators are petrol run, they are not solar, because I don't know why, but I'm not sure that we have enough sun for that, and that all like buildings and houses are suitable for that. Perhaps you must have some specific things and they are more complicated. So in the majority of cases, these are generators that you use petrol for, and you cannot put them in apartment buildings. You can only have them if you have a house, because they are quite loud. Yeah, mulled wine. Thank you so much. Yeah, mulled wine. I'm copying from Ukrainian, горяче вино. It's interesting because when you don't have electricity, for example, last week I didn't have like electricity 8 hours per day. And what is bad, typically you don't have it when you need it, like when it is the peak hour for its usage. So you have it in, I'd say, like 11 a.m., but you don't have it at 8 p.m. or when I want to record a vlog or so on. And also, when you don't have electricity, you have troubles with internet. and you have serious troubles now with mobile connection and mobile internet, which was a serious like solution previously. And perhaps they also like turn off very big areas of Ukraine, like of region, and these mobile towers, they are also turned off. So far, I have come up with some kind of solution what I can personally do for my computer, for my internet, but I'm also buying some EcoFlow stations for my winter. Because, for example, heating in my house, in my apartment, also depends on electricity. And and what else? First of all, when you go outside, it's extremely loud indeed. When you hear all of the generators work, and sometimes it irritates you, sometimes it doesn't. But what I see now is that the bigger city is, the more problems with electricity it may have, because of various plants, factories, or for example, imagine how much um, an underground metro consumes. And in Kiev, the situation is worse than it is, for example, in my city. Also, there are lots of buildings that are, I cannot say skyscrapers for the American audience, but like buildings that are like 22 stories. They were super popular among this, like my age, middle class people buying them and looking at them. So beautiful views in Kiev and so on. And now it's a disaster because the elevators don't work. And sometimes when the outage is not according to the schedule, quite unpredictable, then people can get stuck in the elevator. It's easy to get petrol for the generators right now, and I once cannot say that it's so super expensive or something. No. Then a question with the outages: what about food? For example, right now we have an extreme heat, just like many of the European countries, and it seems to me that US also has this. And like, of course, people are not, I cannot say allowed, people are not recommended to use air conditioning. For example, all the state institutions, they are forbidden. And from one point of view, it's really difficult to catch people air conditioning their apartments. But I can tell you that the level of consciousness in society is really high, and you do understand that. For example, the way I wash the clothes, for example, I always think about like one cycle instead of like, I don't know, three things. So I will wait for more laundry than I would do it normally, for example, to say that. So there were also a question about uh, food, and like it's a problem for many businesses because, for example, coffee shops, they cannot work on generators. You'd be surprised to know that to produce a cup of coffee, and Ukraine, by the way, has a really good coffee, and you're all invited after we win. And they cannot, like, generators do not provide enough energy for a coffee machine to work. So, whoops. Also, it's a problem for the shops and supermarkets. Many of them have generators, and generators are connected to the fridges because you need to save like sausages, meat, milk, and so on. But that's a problem. And like, I think how to stay cool. Oh well, I don't think that this heat will continue for long because it's not common for Ukraine right now. People do not store a lot of food in fridges at home. Plus, honestly, if you have a freezer, and here in Ukraine, like all people have freezers because we store a lot. Uh, they do not, what's the English for defreeze, like it takes a lot. So, for example, the refrigerator part can get warmer, but the one with ice. Thank you so much, Peter. Thank you so much. And it's extremely like, and then the majority, for example, I do not keep many things in the fridge. I eat a lot of vegetables and fruit right now, and like cheese and other stuff that does not get spoiled that quickly. I don't keep a lot of things. Don't worry for the ring. Maybe it's for like self-protection. um, yeah, thank you so much. I hope we will win soon, but you have to leave land because you also have to see the Ukraine reconstructed. Well, I don't know when will the book be ready for purchase because, like, it's the book, but it's a process that I like, and I try to make it interesting. But I plan like a couple of months to continue working on it because there are issues that I'm explaining, and then I will need to look at it. But I think I'm already like more than a half. I'd say like 55% of what I wanted to say. Thank you so much, Yoda. Oh my God. Thank you so much for this support and this huge sponsorship. Cheers to you. And thank you so much. Scott and Nail advise you to hit the like button. And this will definitely help us get 1,000 of likes. Yeah, EcoFlow works well for apartments. It can help you charge your mobile phone. It can help you charge your computer. Also, I have this thing that for water, but it's everywhere in Ukraine. If you know what's that, it's a power bank. For example, I have a bigger one that now supports my internet. I do have electricity, but I did not want our conversation to be interrupted. That's why I have decided to connect it to a power bank. So I'm not like consuming electricity right now from electricity, but just from a power bank. Oh, Yoda, you've made so many people happy, including me. Thank you so much. Maybe you have some questions about this like lifestyle in Ukraine right now. First of all, we have lots of these jokes, you know, like procrastination is a thing or time management is a thing. And at the same time, there are jokes and memes all over Ukrainian internet that like no one could teach me, no one could discipline me, no one could introduce time management in my life, but electricity outages did it perfectly. And literally, you plan your day according to the schedule of electricity outages. And it's kind of it's kind of interesting that there are lots of obstacles that an ordinary Ukrainian has. And for example, not only air raid alerts will influence, for example, if we're not speaking about something really bad, like an attack and destruction, let's say that this is just a MiG flying that will not result in anything. But still, during the air raid alert, state institutions, they don't work. I have to be honest. Many coffee shops, for example, in my city, continue working. Some supermarkets that are in the basements and that can actually work as a bomb shelters, they continue working. But banks, post offices, schools, they don't work. And people have to go to shelters or go out of these buildings, and that's why, yeah, I can hear the air raid siren over the noise of the generator. They are not that noisy. Like, once again, you can hear them working, but with your windows closed, you won't. Plus, this is similar. I'm sure many of you traveled high in the mountains, and sometimes in the mountains they don't have electricity and they use generators. So to some extent, I may feel that It's I come in the mountains. The question: what do I think about India? When I was a child, I loved Indian films. I like that India describes itself as the biggest democracy in the world. I don't like that India cooperates with Russia so close. And I think it was very uncomfortable for your prime minister to visit Putin on the day when Putin destroyed Children's Hospital in Kiev. I think even with all this reserve. And also, thank you so much, John, for becoming a patron. And I don't know why, but all over my social media is a marriage of that rich Indian family with lots of like politicians, even from the United Kingdom, visiting it. And I think it's not good. I'd say it's disgusting, honestly, to spend like millions of dollars understanding that like people do not, unfortunately, people do not become that rich. Uh, Honestly. And I reading the background, like sales with Russia of that family. Thank you, Martin. And knowing that actually there are lots of poor people in India and elsewhere, it was just like honestly, I kept like saying I don't want to see it, and it kept showing me. And of course, they're trying to depict it as a beautiful fairy tale when it actually looks absurd. But I hope that traditionally India is a country of kindness, very beautiful cultural heritage, and I hope more people will understand that Russia is not the best ally in this world for you. Uh, so yeah, we do need 1100 likes, and I've learned how to pronounce that in English. Uh, Thank you so much. People say that I've evolved since the start of my very first vlog. I don't know. My very first vlog was totally subconscious decision. I did not plan to continue, and I do remember those very first days when I had like 50 subscribers, but I got. Thank you so much, Marcus Castle. And I felt like people are watching, and you have 300 views, and I've started feeling the responsibility that I can actually share more and people will understand us better. And I still feel it this way. You cannot be neutral when one country simply invades and kills another. There are no Ukrainians killing Russians in Russia. You know, we simply protect our borders, so neutrality is not an answer in this case. And so thank you so much, Iman. I hope I pronounced your name correctly. You can believe me, I was Googling before I started. Maybe some of you think that we exchange messages or I recognize you, but I don't name you sometimes. It's because I'm Googling the correct pronunciation of your name. So thank you so much for understanding if I'm doing it wrong. I was actually listening and there are two versions, so I don't know. I don't think that Russian players at Wimbledon or elsewhere in the Olympics should be, because you cannot imagine, like, first of all, hundreds and thousands of Ukrainian athletes are in the Ukrainian armed forces, and every week we read about some famous Ukrainian athlete was wounded or killed by Russia. And you know, many of those people, once again, talking about neutrality, those people who, for example, want to see Russian athletes on the Olympics or on Wimbledon, they say, well, let's be neutral. These are Russian athletes. They have nothing to do with Putin. They are neutral, and we have to treat all the countries evenly. Forgetting that thousands of Ukrainians simply cannot compete because they are on the front lines in the trenches. And unfortunately, thousands of them are murdered already by Russia. So we are not in the even conditions. By the way, officially, Ukraine's team to the Olympics, I mean, this general team to the Olympics, uh, is the smallest ever from Ukraine. Not because we don't want to. So I don't think neutrality is applicable. It's just like, um, yeah, I know that it's a beautiful uh, in Gaelic name. I've read it's kind of historic. So anyway, uh, you cannot imagine like how many things. Okay, let's just like a couple of days ago, we had a very severe electricity outage, and I was super nervous. How can I record and upload my vlog? And I knew you'd understand, but I felt very, I don't like to say miserable because, I'm not a victim type person. I hate it. But I felt very bad that my country is at war. Uh, I am in great like danger as all of my people. Every day I read in the news about more and more people killed, about more and more buildings destroyed, and now without electricity, without internet, I cannot even tell you about that. It just like this evil Russia that everybody understands is evil is silencing you. And I felt it very personal because I realized, even like if something good happens, even if we destroy, let's say, Kerch Bridge, I won't be able to record a video and tell you this because they've destroyed a lot, and that's a serious problem. And thank you so much, Ian. And um, and that's when you feel it like super, because you try to be resilient, you try to adjust your schedule. And please forgive if sometimes you're talking about your like internal problems, some prices, I don't know, of course, global warming, or I don't know, some political issues. And a Ukrainian will listen to you like, because on that day, to be able to talk to you, uh, we survived like 8 hours without electricity, with your refrigerator running, for example. You did not manage to enter bank or to get what something from the post office because of an air raid alert. Also, you've learned about someone killed that you respect. Also, you hear about some politicians saying that Putin is a good guy. He's just angry. Guys, thank you so much, Marcus. That's a great support. No, he's killer. He's a murderer. And so sometimes it's even difficult to imagine how many obstacles an ordinary Ukrainian has to go through. And it's not unusual. For example, I had this like post yesterday of my friend. She's in Kiev, and she said, I was walking with my baby stroller perhaps, outside, and we saw missiles above our heads flying in one direction. So can you imagine that you are walking in a park with your toddler and you see missiles? And then she said, we after the walk, we returned home, and it was the 8th hour that we don't have electricity. So I had to carry a baby and then a stroller on the 14th floor. And no, her husband did not help her because he's in the Ukrainian armed forces. And she's okay. She's posting that on Facebook without any anger or hatred. But that's what our life is, even if you're not in the trenches. And actually, that's what many forget. When I receive advice like, Anna, you have to push harder, you have to explain more, you have to, I don't know, address Russians, you have to write something in Russian. Guys, we are all in a huge survival mode. And there were numerous times when I was like applying some makeup on me, not to frighten you, with this, like in my hand, in one of my hands. Or, for example, when just simply you come from a gym. I do fitness. It's super important for me because like it helps me relax. Sports help me a lot. Like I'm a huge fan of that. I don't share that. I take some photos in the gym, but then I feel shy to share them. Like you can join me on Instagram if they ever appear. You will see them there. But for me, it's kind of like I do not believe much in like that conversations can help me because I feel like I know more. That's a bad habit, but um, thank you so much. I will be very grateful for the support, and I know there are lots of people in India who support us. And to be good with that, I am subscribed to one Indian actress, but on Instagram. Well, you can join me on Instagram and check which one. But anyway, and you come from like it was 37 in Ukraine, and then you return back from the gym, and no, there is no electricity, and you take a cold shower. In my case, I'm lucky I have water because I live on not a very high, like I don't live in a very big apartment building, and people in Kiev, like if you don't have electricity, you need electricity to push water up. So approximately above the third or fourth floor, you don't have water if you don't have electricity. So it's not about like just electricity. It's mobile connection, it's water, it's air conditioning. And it's just like this feeling that you cannot work, you cannot type. Okay, there was a question like, can you write a book in times of Martin says maybe make the 150 kilobyte friend celebration a gym video. I will ask my trainer. But uh, but it's just like a lot of things. And for example, you have an inspiration, you want to write something, and you don't have an opportunity. I have some things and some gadgets that help me. And for example, I can work at the computer. But actually, sometimes I think it helps me not to distract, not to go to my Instagram X or something else. Um, but that's a challenge always. So whenever you meet a little bit angry Ukrainian or frustrated Ukrainian or not that smiling Ukrainian, don't judge us as like people who live an ordinary life. We may be ordinary people living very extraordinary life. And I know you don't understand us, and I'm happy that you don't understand us. I wish you to never understand us. I remember actually my grandparents who were children during the Second World War, and you know that the main theater of the Second World War actually was in Ukraine and Belarus, not in Russia. And all these battles and all these tragedies, and actually every fifth hero of the Soviet Union was Ukrainian. So, so I remember them telling me, "Oh, I wish you to never experience this or that." Telling about Soviet experience. And other things. Sasha is fine. We are working on some minor projects. We don't have this weekly videos right now, but I'm sure we will return to this format. Thank you so much, Mike, for becoming a patron. And also, he's waiting for me to finish the book, because after that, we will need more videos to illustrate some of the things there. So I will pass your greetings to Sasha. By the way, they say it, if you are doing that right thing, then you have plans further. So I already know what the second book should be about. um, for those of you who think that I'm a crazy woman writing a book, I have to tell you that I'm actually a co-author of 4 books in Ukraine. These are nonfiction books, and they were about history. So I'm not that alien to nonfiction, but this time I have decided to write it in English and then translate into Ukrainian, not vice versa. I'm sure it will not be perfect, but it will be natural, because this is a book more, of course, for an outside audience, not inside, because there are lots of things that we know in Ukraine about Ukraine and that you don't know. Just like I don't know about Australia, or I don't know about Iceland, but I would love to. So that's why there are some parts that are not needed for an ordinary Ukrainian who studied that at school. Uh, but just like I hope it will be interesting. Thank you for all the kind words that you're saying. I'm not collecting cats, imagine, and I'm picking like 12 of them in a bouquet. Oh, by the way, that will be a final moment. My friends in Kharkiv are okay. Thank you so much for asking that, and thank you someone for 5 coffees. I have a cat, not personal, a city cat. You know, we have this in Ukraine. This is another proof that we're not yet in the European Union. We do have some wild cats. I kind of like them because they like wild cats and like some dogs, but they are typically chipped and vaccinated by city services, but they are like free. To some extent, they are like Eminem. I don't know his personal life, so if there is something, but I don't know. But I mean, like, they are like rappers. They are cool, like, in comparison to those frightened home cats. And I have one here around my house, and he's hunting here. And I have a big terrace. And actually, there was a period when I think it's he, was bringing me some birds that he hunted. I think it's flirting. But it was not fun when you have like a dove without a hat. But typically, look out, you see it, and then you look out for the second time, and they like disappeared. So he like, yeah, he loves me, I guess. I have this feeling like 2 birds a week, not every cat can afford that. So you see, I'm like, Russian trolls will say that I'm a bloodthirsty woman. Because like, I have hunted birds on my terrace. I don't know. I will think about the parallel Instagram, and I do want to push it a little bit, but I did not have much time, because still YouTube is main for me, as it allows to share more. So thank you so much for all the questions. I think I will let you enjoy your Saturday. Are there anyone on the channel who has Sunday already? Or maybe, like, I'm afraid to say something stupid, or maybe still have Friday? I guess no. Yeah, secret admirer. Yeah, that sounds funny. Like, who is your secret admirer meowing outside? So we have like 1178 likes. Please like to make it a little bit more. Oh, Michael is in Sunday. I know, like, Michael, Australia, New Zealand, those countries who are first to meet the new day. Lucky you are, guys. And Singapore, yeah. I've dreamt to visit Singapore one day, and I actually know that people who travel to Australia, they very often stop in Singapore, and they are always very happy that they have a chance to have a glimpse of your beautiful city. So, and greetings to Kansas. We are actually finishing, but still really glad that you've joined us. And there were so many people from so many different locations, and all of them are connected with Ukraine because you support us and we feel that. So thank you so much. Remember to subscribe to my Instagram, Discord, Threads, X. I'm everywhere. And I like saying that I share more of everyday life on Instagram. And whenever I'm angry, I go to Threads or X, and there I express my feelings. And I actually like it. Greetings to Tennessee. And I'm actually grateful that they have limited number of characters that you may use. That's why I'm not overly emotional. Also, we have a beautiful merch shop with lots of items, and soon new collection, new drop will appear. So from time to time, check it. The links you may find on the page. I'm always very grateful to the people who join as patrons or sponsors of the channel, because this helps develop, film more, think more, write more, and adds confidence. And also for coffees that keep me energetic. Thank you for that. But most importantly, I'm very grateful for all the friendship that I feel here. We have a wonderful team, of course, our moderators, Martin, Spencer, Rudy, but I have to say Neil and Michael and Francois and Iman, of course, and Paul and Pat and many more people whom I may not name right now, but you know that you are um, very close to my heart. Or I haven't Googled how to pronounce your name yet. So anyway, thank you so much. Warmest greetings to Ohio Oblast and Geneva and many, many beautiful places. And I'm really glad that you learn a lot about Ukraine and that you want to know about Ukraine. Always let me know in the comments what are the next videos you'd like to see on the channel, what things need clarification. And of course, provide me some ideas. What would you like to find in book? As I'm in the process, I can still add things. And by the way, in the comments below, you may tell me what would you like to know about lifestyle in Ukraine, because that's the chapter I'm working after history. Love you all. Slava Ukraini. Thank you.